Welcome everybody. Good to be back here talking NIO on the channel. So this will be an update on where I see the company currently going. A couple of really good trading days behind us, right? So before I start, I want to also have a little bit of a disclaimer or update from my side. I saw people talking on the socials around my investment in NIO, and while I can never give you advice that you should do, I can tell you what I am doing, and I'm always transparent in what I'm doing. And some people said whether or not I've sold out of my position because I'm currently doing less frequent updates, or sometimes I can be more critical of stuff, but that's not the case. The fact is I'm owning more stock than I have ever owned, and I was never underwater due to my low average, but that may not be the case for everybody, right? And I cannot tell you whether or not you should do, selling or accumulating more stock. I just hope to bring you a little bit of my views and a bit more clarity into where I think the company is currently. And so this update is also about, of course, the recent breakout of the stock. So I'm not bringing up the chart here even, but NIO has been in a downtrend since basically 2021 and has kept on selling off. And even when it came to the trajectories or the edges of this downtrend channels, the stock usually never managed to break out, but in this week it did, actually a little bit helped by possibly the dovish Fed comments by the end of the week. So we got lucky. But what I want to discuss more about actually in this video is how this might be also a reflection of the company in change and this hopeful transition that NIO is currently undergoing, managing, executing. I don't know what's the right word here, but definitely we're in this transition phase to a possible Q4 profitable quarter, and then that's a marathon, not a sprint. The company needs to get onto a sustainable business path, right? And I would say that the current stock price reaction in this whole sentiment thing, but also where the company currently is, has a lot to do with a phase that is one specific person, which is Shen, which has previously been the main person for NIO Power, and who's now become the CEO of the NIO sub-brand Onvo, which has initially been a disaster in the way it's been launched. Many mistakes has been made. Although I already said on this channel that it possibly needs to take more time, but additionally it seems that it needed a bit more of the proper person to manage it. And I think a lot of that, what I'm just saying, is actually the case for the whole company. So I'm seeing this as a kind of a reflection what NIO currently is and where the problems are to tackle. And why I'm also not viewing too much the sales side in terms of the revenues increases, and also the weeklies, for example, which are highly discussed in social media. I'm looking more on the internal way how NIO is changing. That's also why I made my last video about the managerial stuff, which is about how they are communicating with retail investors, hopefully announcing a Hong Kong primary listing. That hasn't happened yet, but I think the main story here is whether or not NIO is going to reinvent itself and whether or not it has a chance to reinvent itself. And based on the last couple of the outcomes that we have now with the L90, the L80, the ES8 and stuff, this is all on a product level and different brands, but definitely that is helping to increase what I previously described as the plan A, the way how NIO can out of its own resources grow into profitability and possibly can avoid some sort of this M&A type of sellout and rescue plan, which would be the plan B, which we still don't know what would happen in that situation if that might be the case. And I'm not telling you that we are out of the woods already and everything's great and from here it's only up. But the chances for plan A, I think, have drastically increased, and that's also being valued by the market. Now, I said, like, I think the main reason, I think, is this new phase of Shen Fei in a way that if you look who he is and where is he coming from and what does his story carry along, it is interesting because he's actually an engineer, right? He is the main brain behind NIO Power, so he's actually a tech guy, but he was very passionate. And I met him also during the Berlin launch event, for example. Like, he's really one of those very, very pragmatic people, ruthless in his own way, in a good way, a straight thinker, and he can be very, very passionate. And I think what I've just described as a sort of a character, I think has been missing a little bit in the past in NIO. I also recently had a little bit of a rant on X, tweeting out, I think, things that need to change with NIO, and I think a lot of that is, and that's why I'm not so much focused on the revenue side, but more on the cost side, about what's making up this company and where they're spending the money and how they're spending it, and who is doing that and what are they doing. And I think Shen Fei would be right of a positive example, somebody who can get stuff done, who has like this guerrilla marketing mindset, somebody who always thinks how to be pragmatic, to adapt to the market and stuff. And on the other hand, what NIO is still carrying around as a major bag, in my opinion, is the problem with the hiring mistakes that have done in the past when cash was plentiful and people got on board that I think have been initially hyped for the fact that they sometimes have been coming from legacy automakers, like previous German executives, especially here in Europe, for example, but we also have some of those people in China. And I think NIO has hired lots of wrong people in the past that they now need to get rid of. It sounds terrible, but that's the case. I think we need more Shen Fei people, the original, the OGs, the people who really drive the company, and you can see it by the decisions that he has made with the Onvo brand now, this turnaround with the L90. Of course, the product itself was long in the makings before, but the way it's launched in the market is entirely different as well. Now with the ES8, the pricing and stuff, I would say that this is all part of a new thinking in the NIO management level, and Shen Fei is really kind of the person impersonating that, and we need more people like him. And so I think where I see the company currently is maybe 70% through that process. I think there are still people at NIO currently who are maybe there for the wrong reasons, and in a period where NIO was not in a crisis or that sort of thing, was joining the company and maybe for the wrong reasons. And I think partly that has been also on Li Bin's agenda, and he possibly did make some mistakes here, maybe also enhanced by COVID crisis. There have been difficulties with traveling and such, but the main story is NIO was really carrying around lots of these, I call it bullshit jobs or unproductive people inside of the company, some of which unfortunately I experienced myself. I've described it in my Patreon-only videos, mostly about my own experience when I wanted to get my hands on NIO cars in Germany. And this is all, I think, due to a failed operational strategy in the past, or not strategy, even more on the executive level. And some people are being made redundant, some people with double hirings are now consolidated between Europe or China and so on. And I think this process is not done yet, really, but we see the new phase of NIO coming out with what Shen Fei is driving here. And interestingly, somebody who's not in sales and marketing, but he is getting things done. And that's why we need more people who are really thinking like entrepreneurs, like startup thinkers in NIO. And that is the upside case here. If NIO really manages to turn into this new organization that is getting rid of all of this fat and losing that fat, in a sense, becoming a more lean organization again. And I hope that this is the main job that Li Bin is currently doing. I'm hearing that he's like very tight on the budget, for example, and going through all of these budgets. But I think the budgets themselves are not the main thing. Like if you have a lazy salesperson in China that is not managing to sell cars to people, then this person needs to get done, get rid of by NIO currently in this stage. And I think NIO should be very ruthless on that right now. And then with that, they can start a new beginning. Because frankly, again, I think NIO should reinvent itself and should become this company again with this big vision and big potential, where people right now just looking at the sales numbers and the weekly sales, I think that's really not what this company is about. If you look, for example, this brilliant pivot that Tesla has done, it's mostly also on the shareholder marketing side, I would say, of branding themselves not as a car manufacturing company, but as an AI company at this point. So, well, sales don't matter. You don't got growth, EPS going down, year-over-year growth, it's non-existent. Nobody cares. The stock's still doing well. So, some sort of marketing and brand the storytelling here is also important in that way. And so I think that in combination with the cost reductions that this will bring and the huge gap that we can close from burning through 1 billion a quarter to zero or earning money per quarter, this gap is actually huge. This could be the huge drive of the stock price going forward. But for that, I think NIO also needs to embark on this new journey with new people, with the right people, and also really get rid of all of these bullshit jobs and double hirings and legacy people that initially we thought might be a good idea if a former general manager joins the company, but he's rooted in this old thinking, cannot sell cars, doesn't know how to build a brand, and all of that not working, right? And so yeah, that's the main job and the main thing that I'm personally watching, except for the sales, because I think for the sales and revenues, it's possible to break even on lower estimations than Wall Street or even management themselves are putting out there currently. It's more about the cost side, and it's more on whether the right decisions are being made in terms of how this new company structure is evolving. And then on top, like, where is NIO going next, right? We've got, of course, the topic of AI. We got what's the potential of Nomi in the future? What's the potential of NIO and its self-driving capabilities? What's its potential of the software, the full stack software that they're having, plus the chipset and so on? All of that is currently not really regarded in any ways, but a market that is more bullish in the future, also possibly helped by the Fed, might actually turn its focus more again on these objectives. And so first clean the house, and then we can focus on that stuff. And that's what gets me personally excited about the whole story, and now hopefully this turnaround story of NIO stock in the future. And so before I don't see that failing, I'm not selling out of my stock, but that's just my thing, and I'm hoping to gain the upside here, because although I haven't gone into the red with my position, obviously there's also the opportunity cost, and lots of stocks have been surging and doing well, and we've been sitting in NIO very, very long and not earning anything on any dividend or any gains on that. So that's the problem here for us as retail shareholders, and that's again why I'm also still hoping for this big signal from the management side, although we didn't need that, even not the earnings, not the signal yet to break out of the downtrend, but expect it to be tested again, whether or not we get this in as a support and whether or not we can go higher from here. I'm personally betting on that, but that shouldn't be what you necessarily have to do. Thanks for watching, thanks for your support, and see you in the next videos.